Hello, we are here today at the Holler at the Kentucky Valley Educational Co-op, and we are here to talk about balancing math and literacy inside of your classroom. So today, I'm Stephanie Kidd,
Chasity Craft,
and Vonda Adams.
We're going to talk about taking one book, and we are going to use that book in both literacy and in math. So we're going to start out with literacy today, and Chastity's going to talk about the things that she's going to do.
So we're going to do, like Steph said, we're going to do 1 is a snail and 10 is a crab. So the first thing that you want to do when you're presenting any book with your class is first just read it for enjoyment, because you want kids to love stories and love books. So the first time, just let them enjoy it. So you just introduce. My favorite is still just the old sit-down story carpet style, and just open the book and read it to them. So we'll do that today, just for those of you who may not be familiar with this story. So we'll go ahead and read that. 1 is a snail, 10 is a crab. One is a snail. They're going to the beach. This is a snail's foot. And 2 is a person. 3 is a person and a snail. 4 is a dog. 5 is a dog and a snail. 6 is an insect. 7 is an insect and a snail. 8 is a spider. 9 is a spider and a snail. 10 is a crab. And crabs have 10 feet. Their front 2 feet also have a second job as claws. And that means if 10 is a crab, 20 is 2 crabs. 30 is 3 crabs, or 10 people and a crab. 40 is 4 crabs, or 10 dogs. 50 is 5 crabs, or 10 dogs and a crab. 60 is 6 crabs, or 10 insects. 70 is 7 crabs, or 10 insects and a crab. 80 is 8 crabs, or 10 spiders. 90 is 9 crabs, or 10 spiders and a crab. So 100 is 10 crabs, or if you're counting really slowly, 100 snails. The end. Okay, so at this point, probably if your kids will be, yay, and you jazz it up and let them just enjoy and take in the story, then you can move into your lesson. I'm going to talk about 3 things that you can do with this book. The 3 activities, they're actually generic, which means you can use them really with any book. It doesn't necessarily have to be with this one. We're just going to use this one as the example today. The first one I'm going to talk about is book features. This would be a good one. You can introduce the parts of a book for kids. Sometimes I think we take that for granted, that they would know parts of a book. And of course, based on what level of kids that you are working with, then you could determine how many book features you want to do. You can start out by just doing the front cover, the spine, and the back cover, and maybe just the title page. Then you can add, or you would probably want to do the author and the illustrator. Then you could go into depth into more that's listed. I had the lesson plan here, so when you get these materials, then you can have all the parts listed for you. I'm just going to go over a few for time's sake today, just to kind of give you an idea. So we're going to talk about, you can say, okay, I'm going to introduce the book parts parts of a book. You can use the term book features, parts of the book, either way. So you talk about it, and you do the method of I do it, we do it, you do it. So this front is the front cover. Then you can talk about what is it? It's the front cover. Then this will be the back cover. What is it? It's the back cover. And then the spine, show them the spine. And then flip over. And, okay, in this one we use, this is called the title page. This is your author and your illustrator. And at this point, again, depending on your level of your students, you may have to tell them what an author is. An author is the person who writes the book. The illustrator is the person who draws the pictures. So you may want to go over that with that. Now, the couple of activities that you can use with this, to let them practice a little bit, you can put, I like the cooperative learning strategy of numbered heads together. You can number, depending on how many students you have, you can do a pair, groups of 3, groups of 4. I wouldn't do any more than 4, but in each group you would have a 1, 2, and a 3, or a 1, 2, 3, and a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And so everybody's assigned a number. And then what happens is each student has the book. And then I would use some either like highlighting tape or Post-its or just anything that they can mark, the book. So, for example, while they're in their groups, you can call out, say, okay, find the front of the book. And they would take their highlighting tape or whatever, and then just put the little here. And you can even go, if you have something like this that have different colors, so that you can, if you don't have to check them each time, then you could color code it and say, put the pink tab on the front cover, put the purple on the back cover, and then you can go and very easily look and see. So, and the purpose of the numbered group is you're walking around, and this gives your students who are not really sure a chance to work in their group and get familiar and practice that. So then when you call out and say, okay, 2s, show me the front cover, so everybody who is a 2 in their group would hold up their book and you can look. And then that gives them some support before being able to go on their own. And then in order to see if they know that as a formative assessment for an individual, then they would go back to their seats. You can do the same process, and then except they would do it individually at their seats. And then instead of doing the strategy of like the whiteboard hold up, then you would just use the book instead. So you can say, okay, everybody show me the title page. Give them a chance to mark their title page, and then say, okay, 1, 2, 3, hold up, and then they would all hold their books up at the same time. Then you can very easily scan your room and see if they have marked it on the right page. And you can use that as your formative assessment as well. The next thing I want to talk about is vocabulary. I want to talk about a multisensory approach to vocabulary words. What that means is you're going to utilize kids being able to see it and hear it and have movement. When you use that multisensory approach to anything, then that triggers different learning styles for kids, and it helps them to be able to learn it, understand it, and be able to progress in reading. So the first thing that we're going to do, and so I have developed a PowerPoint of vocabulary words that you will be able to use. Again, the words I used may be a little bit hard for your kids that you're working with. But what I did is I took math words, the math concept words that these ladies are going to be working with today, and that's what I use to do my vocabulary words, and that's what I'm going to use as my example. However, you can also make your own, and you can use this book for color words, actual number words, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth, or the animals, things like that. So you can use it for however you need to use it for your kids, but the process is going to be the same. Also, I'm going to demonstrate the multisensory approach. With these, you will actually have access as well to a written step-by-step process. I'm just going to demonstrate it, but then you'll have the written steps that you can be able to go back to and practice it yourself and have it as a resource to look back on. So the first thing that we have here in the PowerPoint is you have the next one is comparison words. Okay, so I'm just going to go, and I am not going to go through all of these. There's several words in here, and I just made it just so that you would have them to go with the math concepts. I'm not going to go through all of those because there's no time, and the process is the same for each word. So once you do, you're going to do the same exact thing for every word that you do. So I'm just going to start with the first one just because it's the first one. Okay, so the first thing that you do is present. Well, let me back up and say what you would need for this strategy. You only need a red crayon. We call them red words. It's like just words that they're just not really, you don't use phonics to read them, so we just call them red words. So a red crayon and a white sheet of paper and a screen. We call it a discretion screen, but this is just the plastic canvas that you get at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, wherever. Mine is red. It does not have to be red. It can be any color that you can, if you have, because that doesn't matter. Okay. So, the first thing that you do is you present the word to the student as a visual. Okay, so you see this, you have bigger. You have the word itself as the visual, the letters. And then I also have a picture of demonstrating what bigger would be. And again, it's harder with math concept words because they're not concrete. If you had a picture of a tusk, like an elephant's tusk, then you would just put a tusk up there. But this is a concept, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But anyway, it's the same thing. So you have the concept of bigger. After you do that, you present the word, and then you pronounce the word for the students. You tell them, this word is bigger. What is the word bigger? Okay, and you say that 3 times. Then the next thing that you're going to do is give it to them in a sentence so that they can make sense out of it. The right triangle is bigger than the one on the left. That gives them, they can use it in context, they can visualize it, they have the visual themselves. Then the next thing is you're going to see, you're going to ask them how many syllables are in bigger. And it depends on, again, where your students are. You may have practiced finding syllables and you may have not. If you haven't, you may obviously need to go into that. But you see how many syllables are in there. So in bigger, and some people you can do this, bigger, some people clap, you tap, however you do it is fine. So we're going to just tap bigger. Okay, so then as a class you come up with 2. You have 2 syllables, right? Okay, so then you're going to chunk them into, chunk the word into the 2 syllables. Bigger. B-I-G-G-E-R. Okay, then you're going to arm tap. Now, let me demonstrate how you arm tap words. Okay, so if you are a right-handed student, then you're going to use your left hand and you're going to tap with your right arm. You can have a pencil or not, it doesn't matter. But you're going to tap. Okay, so with bigger, you have 2 syllables. So you spell each syllable with the tap. So for example, and they're looking at it. At this point, they're not guessing. So they have the visual, you have the word up for them, and then you're going to say B-I-G-G-E-R bigger. And what this does is it blends the word together, and it also reinforces that direction of left to right in reading. So they start up here and go down. B-I-G-G-E-R, bigger. If you're left-handed, then you want them to use their left hand, and then you're going to start at your wrist, because again, you're wanting them to do the left to right, and you don't want them to get confused on that. So if they're left-handed, you're going to do B-I-G-G-E-R, bigger, and go up. I will say this though, there are sometimes students, and because I'm left-handed, but sometimes I catch myself and I do that naturally. So if a student is left-handed or right-handed and they're doing the opposite way, if it's not messing with if they still know that it's still left to right and that doesn't mess them up as far as that, let it go. It's not that big of a deal, because the point of this activity is for them to read that vocabulary word. So, that's just a small detail that don't get hung up on if it's working for them and it's not affecting how they read from left to right. Okay. So they go, after you break it into chunks, and then you go down to, then you present it, then it's a clean visual. You have the word and the picture, and then you're going to arm tap while they're looking at it. Okay, so we've done that. Then the next step is you're going to, this is screen time, you're going to put your paper on top of the screen and get your crayon, and then as you write it, you're going to say each letter out loud, and you want them to kind of write it, big, so that they can get that memory trace. So you're going to write it B, I, G, G, E, R, bigger. Okay, you want them to, if they can, press down hard. Sometimes I know if you tell kids to press down real hard, they'll break the crayon, but you want them to press hard, because then after they write it, you're going to take the screen away, and then you can rub your finger over it, and you feel that texture from the crayon that's rubbed over that screen. And what that does is it provides them with that memory trace. They could, again, that multisensory, they feel that, and it will help them remember the letters of the word. So you're going to take the discretion screen away. You're going to take your index finger, B, I, G, G, E, R, bigger. You do that 3 times. Everything you do is 3 times. Magic number is 3. After you do that, then at this point, then you can look, and you can do it in the air. Take it away and see if they can remember it. B, I, G, G, E, R, bigger. And then at that point you hope that they form that memory trace. Then you can go on to the next letter or next word. You do this. You repeat the same process with that. Now, a way that you can assess, to use your formative assessment for these students is, I like the numbered heads group. I like that. You could put that in to let them talk about, you can go through and let them work the meanings of the definition, just practicing those. But then I also like the whiteboard hold up. So when you break them apart, you can talk about what the definition is, and then they can write it on the boards, and you can hold those up. And then obviously, if you want to know if they can read them, then just have them read to you, because that's about the only way you're going to know. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is a writing project, because for me, as a classroom teacher, the hardest thing was to do successful writing for our students. They hate it. They cannot think on their own. They do not have the words to. They just don't have it. So what I wanted to try to share, I wanted to give you some activities that will help you get your kids to thinking and be able to have some ownership in their writing and can come up with their own ideas. So that's going to be the next thing. Again, for time, I'm going to go through these, but I've already kind of written ahead what that you would do, but you'll get. Now, what I'm going to show you is going to be over the course of several days, because as we all know, writing is a process. So you may think that you're not going to get very far, and you may not, and that's okay, because writing, it's a slow process, so just keep that in mind. So on the first day, what you're going to do is just have an object of anything. Mine is very, very tiny. You can use any object that you want. It doesn't matter. And you want to have several, 2 to 3. I have done 2, but you can do as many as you think that you need for your students. So we're going to talk about word choice first. So you're going to hold up an object. Okay, you're going to put chart paper. Your chart paper is going to be blank. You're going to have it up on the wall. So you're going to let these kids brainstorm and give you words that would describe your object. I have this one, and if you want, because I know there's some students that it doesn't matter if the only thing this was a pink ball, and they would not be able to give you pink. So you might compare that with a partner. Let them talk with each other for a minute just to get some ideas, and then they can share out. As students share out what your object looks like, just write them down. So if somebody says small, just write it up, and accept any word that is remotely related. And also, if it gets kids thinking and somebody says small, and then there's like, oh, okay, well, small, well, the opposite of small would be huge. So go ahead and put that down. It doesn't describe this object, but it is a description word. And the whole point is to get kids writing descriptive words. So anything that would possibly fit, put it on here. So I've went through different words that would describe a quail here. And I have done this xylophone. And I mean, it could be color words, it could be just anything. And that's all you would do for day 1 and be done, because at that point, especially if you've tried to do your reading activity as well, they're done as well. So after day 1, every word that is written on your chart paper, you're going to write on index cards. So you're going to put 1 word per card, and then you're going to tape these to your wall somewhere in the classroom. Just randomly put them up in the wall. So for day 2, you're going to let the kids take the word cards and just kind of play around with them. Let them talk amongst themselves, and let them group words that are similar. So for example, if they're looking through these, and then I said, okay, green, red, yellow, and purple, round, long, let's see, chubby, big, that's kind of the same. So they go through all of those, and then they sort them in categories. Okay, after, and you may of course have to guide them a little bit. Let them do as much on their own as you can, but you may have to guide them to help them come up with actual categories. So then you want to make another chart paper, and you're going to title it Describing Words. Okay, and then you're going to come up, and again, you want them to try to come up with these, but you want to kind of lead them to, and yours may be a little bit different, but these are some general categories that would, pretty much any object would fit under these. So just like size, color, shape, texture, and then you can put other if there is truly one that wouldn't fit in any of them. And then as they physically have the cards on them, then you can do one of two things. If you have room, you could actually take the card and tape it, under, or just because if they have them sorted like on their table or on their desk, then have them call out and say, okay guys, what words did you have under size? And then you're going to write those down and color and so forth. You're going to do that for each group. And then that's all for day 2. You're done. Now, every time that you make these anchor charts, you're going to leave them on your classroom wall as a guide for them and as a resource. So now you have just a full list of words, and now you have them categorized into different categories. Okay, now you're moving on to day 3. Day 3, you can use a stuffed animal or a different object. It really does not matter. So what you're going to do is have an object. You're going to let the kids, you can pass it around, let them look at it, feel of it, just really think about this object. While the kids are looking at it, you're going to write 3 sentences on chart paper. Very basic sentences about your object. So I have a little tiger here. So I just put, the tiger has fur. My second sentence, it has a tail. And my third sentence is, the tiger has claws to help catch food. That's very basic. So what you do is you have the kids say, okay, I want everybody to close their eyes and I'm going to read these sentences to you. So you're going to, the sentences I just read to you, you would read your sentences to the kids with their eyes closed. Okay, then you have them say, okay, what did you visualize? What did you see as I read? Then you have them say, okay, you take this tiger, get me some words that would add some more detail to these, that would help paint, because what you're doing with descriptive words is painting a picture in the reader's mind. So then, again, it would be a good idea to work with a partner or a small group to help come up with some words. So after they've had a chance to do that, then you're going to share out, and then you're going to rewrite sentences based on what your students say. So then, for example, you call on one group and then they might say, the tiger has soft orange fur covered with thin black stripes. So then you want to have them notice the difference in the tiger has fur, and then this new sentence, it has soft orange fur with thin black stripes. So, let them see, can you picture more vividly what that tiger would look like? And then with the tail, the tiger, instead of saying it has a tail, you can say it has a long, sleek tail. Because you got to think, some people may not know what a tiger looks like. Does it have a bushy tail? Things like that. So that would help add that description. And then you want to underline your words, your descriptive words. And then the last one, the tiger has sharp claws to help him catch smaller, weaker animals for food. Now again, this brings in background knowledge, which is a whole other category, but I put that in there just to kind of encourage, if they wanted to, it doesn't have to end with food, period. They can add some other details, because the whole point of this is you're starting with words and then you're moving to sentences, and then eventually you want to take these sentences and put them into paragraphs. So, eventually. So after you do that, and then after you, and then you're going to get several, you could repeat this process with each group, because, one group may have soft orange fur, somebody else may have something different. So allow the students to share their ideas and to write their new sentences. But after that, just make sure that they visualize the new sentences so that they can see the difference with the details. And lastly, on day 4, you're going to talk about action words. This is where I would bring in your story that you are reading. So you're going to just pick a page out of the book that you're reading. It could be any page that you want. I chose this one. I just liked it. I thought, so I chose this one. So then you're going to do the same process that you did with your descriptive words on day one. So you're going to have your students look at this picture or this page in the story and say, tell me some things. What is going on in this picture? So and again, you're going to start out with a blank chart. I've already written words for time's sake. So for example, they might say waving because the crab is waving, they're waving to him. Floating, resting, turning. And again, you're going anything. Now you don't want something that's totally wrong. So you don't want to, if somebody says running, you really don't want to put that one here because you also want to get them to kind of focus on truly what's going on, because then you're going to start having random thoughts when they start writing a story. So that helps them get focused on this one. So anything that would work, you want to write it down. So then after you come up with your action words, then you take one of the words and make it into a sentence. So I've used standing in this one. One crab is standing on the beach, and his friends are waving at him. So it's very concrete. They could just write exactly what's going on in this picture, and that's your sentences. You went from words to sentences. Now, and then, and you go through that same process with each of the words, and then that's the end of your day 4. I do want to say to extend on that, and this one would be, keeping on to however long you want to focus on this. You could go back and say to one crab is standing on the beach, and then this is where you start doing the abstract thinking about why do you think he's standing on the beach? If the other crabs are in the water, everybody else is in the water, he's on the beach. Why do you think he's on the beach? So you may get some responses like he may be scared, he might have just been running late, or things like that. So it gets the kids start to thinking and talking, and then as they come up with those thoughts, they're going to extend on that sentence, and then that's how you're going to develop your paragraphs. Same thing with the next one. His friends are waving. What are they saying to him? And you just get their thought processes going. So you just kind of, it's like a guided questioning to kind of get them to start thinking a little bit on their writing. So that is all I have for my section. If you have any questions or anything, you can contact me. We'll give our contact information at the end. And I'll turn it over to the math ladies.
Okay, we are now going to talk about how to use this book with some math concepts. And so first of all, I'm going to look back at this book and talk about how we could use this book basically just for counting. If we want to work with just counting with our kids who need to work on counting. Of course, we talk about how the snail has just the 1 foot. That's why it stands for 1. And the good thing about this book is it links the quantity with the symbol. This is what we call the symbol in math. And we never ever want to present just the symbol to children that don't know what the quantity is of the number. It never needs to be what we call a naked number. And then of course 2, of course, we're linking 2 with the 2 feet, and they can count 1, 2. And then 3, we're linking with the 2 feet and the snail. 1, 2, 3. And of course you can see this is actually beginning to build on an addition concept. 2 plus the 1 more makes 3. And then 4, the dog has 4 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the kids of course can count along with you as you point, or one of the kids could be up and pointing as well. Of course the dog, again, 5 rather, is a dog and a snail. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 more makes 5. And of course the 6 is the insect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you get the concept there. Now I'm going to skip on over here to the crab, which is 10. And 10 is a huge number for kids to have an understanding of, because our number system, of course, is based on 10. And we build our numbers based on 10. So with the crab, they're going to talk about 10. They can count to 10. But what's great about the crab is we can start counting by tens. For example, 2 crabs is 10, 20. We don't necessarily count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So the kids would understand that just counting by tens is way quicker than counting by ones. And then of course we go on to 30, 10, 20, 30, and then looking at how that 30 could also be a crab, and then other ways to make a 10. Alright, so there's lots of things you can do with counting with this book. Multiples of 2, oftentimes the sets of people, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So you see how that can work with counting by multiples. And of course that builds into your multiplication concepts as well too for later on, setting them up to be successful with that, looking at equal groupings. So after you've done that with the kids and they're good with working with those numbers, then you want to help the kids to link the symbol. Here is a symbol that we're taking from this book. Of course, here's our symbol for 1. It's always important to link that word with it too, so they can get familiar with the word. And then we're also going to link it with our base 10 blocks. And so almost every primary classroom will have a set of base 10 blocks in it. So we're going to share the ones that we have here. Of course, we have the 1, the unit, we call it the unit in base 10. And then of course we have the 10, and we have the rod, which we call this a rod. And of course the pictures are here. This is something you would put up in your classroom as anchor charts for the kids to refer to. And then of course the book does not go into hundreds and thousands, but this is where you would take the book and go further with it. So after we've done 1s and 10s, and I'm going to put these in a different order, 1s, 10s for obvious reason, then we can look at hundreds, and we'll have the centipede. In the centipede, we actually have little cutouts of the centipede that we will share with you. All these things you'll have access to via a Google Drive or resources that we will send to you if you had logged in to participate with us on the day 1 of this training. So,
But if not, you can Google these.
Oh, true. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of these resources we just found by Googling. Of course, they're free, so they're out there for us to share with you. And then, of course, the flat for 100. And then, of course, we have the millipede, which stands for the 1,000. And, of course, we're going to link these all together and have the kids become familiar with what the symbols look like and what their values are, and we're going to build. And obviously you would not do this all at once. You would start with just 1s and have them build numbers with just 1s. And then move to 10s and move to hundreds and move to thousands. So we're going to do a few of those with you here and demonstrate how you would want to do that. So I'm going to move these out of the way for now. And we're going to build with just the symbols, just these little characters that we have, because the kids will enjoy this. They'll enjoy linking it all together. And of course I have done to show you how that you can, these are color coded, as you can see. Probably should show you that first before I put them away. These are color coded for us. Yeah, what was distracting me is I don't have my 10 out here. I didn't get him color coded. Well, I'll have to get him color coded. So this one should have, yeah it is, it's just the lighting in here. So this is color coded with the red. So all our little symbols we're going to work with have the red. And this, of course, the crab has the blue box around it. And the centipede has the green. And the millipede, standing for our thousands, has the yellow. And the kids, lots of times they'll need that color coding to help them build these numbers. But whenever they get secure with that, then you also have this option that I'll send to you, which has remove the color. And I also have taken these little characters and remove the color for you, which is just removing one of those supports for the kids. And that's what it is. We slowly release our kids to work independently. So that's an option for you that you will receive to build these numbers with. So now let's build some numbers. So I'm going to remove these. And we're actually going to build some numbers. What am I going to build? Let's see. Let's use this little smaller mat. I've made these larger mats for you that you can use with your kids. And then also I have these smaller mats that we're going to work with. So we're going to work with just 1s and 10s first. And this one happens to be one that does not have the color support on it, but we're going to put one up here just so you can see if you were to use it with the color on it. Okay, so you would ask the kids to build a number when they're ready. You could build, let's say we want to build 7. So you would write the symbol 7. Of course, you would show them how to write the symbol 7. Well,
Across the sky and down from
Well,
heaven.
it's just not easy to write and hold this paddle up for me. Kids do well at that. So you'd have to write the 7. You show the kids the symbol that you want them, what the symbol is, when they're ready, of course, to see those naked numbers like that. And then you would talk about, okay, let's build 7. What would that look like? So what would you need to build 7? And of course, they could get out and they would have these little counters, and you'd have a set for them to work. They can work in teams, whatever you would like for them to do, or they can work on their own. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So building 7 that way. They could do it that way. Also, your kids, if you want, another little trick I want to share with you is I've got all my stuff here on this little tray. And I've got a piece of foam in here to keep things from sliding around too much. And that's a good idea to have in your classroom. So the kids, therefore, when they build their number, if they want to share, they pick up the whole tray and they bring it and put it under your document camera, and they can share and talk about their answer or talk about their work. So that's one way to do that. And so if we want to build, of course, moving into some teens, let's build the number 14. So if we want to build 14, we're showing the symbol this way, and then they would build, they talk about how that would be a 1 in their tens place, and then 4 snails. So they would talk about that would be 1 crab and 4 snails, which would build 14, or therefore 1 10 and 4 ones, 4 units. Okay, so that's how you can use that work mat, and obviously you can continue on with that. You can use this work mat to build greater numbers. You have a mat that will look like this, which will have the 1s and the 10s and the 100s for your centipedes, and you also have those characters. We'll lay these out here for you to see. You've got these to work with on this one. And what you can do as well is you can kind of turn the table on the kids, and you can build the number, present the number, and they would be responsible for writing the symbol, what that would be. So looking at this one, they would see that that is 1 centipede, so that's in the 100s place, and that is 2 crabs, that's 2 10s, and that's 3 snails, which would give us the number 123. And then you could just ask them to show you, and then you could quickly scan the room and see if they've got it. A nice way of formative assessment. Paddles are great for formative assessments. Real quick check. I suggest that you always have the kids keep their answer down, and then everybody at once will say, okay, you say show me, and everyone lifts their answer to show.
They could also use the back of the mat. If they were creating those, they could use the back of the mat and write that number.
Sure, absolutely. You would not.
Quick show.
You do not have to have these nice little paddles. You can use just a sheet of cardstock that's been laminated, or you don't even have to have that. You can just put a sheet of cardstock down in a sheet protector and have them write on that and wipe it off back and forth.
That keeps good engagement going.
Absolutely. And that's our goal, is to keep our kids engaged. All right. Now, let's talk about building these numbers. If we wanted to move to using the base 10. Okay, so remember we've already worked with ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. Of course, I didn't show you the thousands, but we have the map. We do have that one map here that also has that. So once you've done all that with your kids, and of course this is over a course of several days. Obviously you wouldn't do this all in one setting. Then you can move to linking the two together. So you can move to, you would give them the number, for example, if I gave them the number, 1,425, and they would write that in there because this is what we're building. Then we're going to build it with the concrete. This, of course, this map shows our CSA model, the concrete, the semi-concrete, and the abstract. So the concrete's where we use our tools. So we're going to actually use the base 10 blocks to build this number. So we're going to use our thousands cube to build it. And then we're going to have 4 flats to build that 400. And this is where I like the base 10 blocks, is to use them to build numbers. Of course, and then of course we need 2 tens. We build that there. And then we need our 5 units here. You did. Thank you to my assistant here. And then of course the semi-concrete is where we actually draw what we have built. So we're going to draw a cube. And with cubes, those kids have a hard time drawing cubes. So you can do a little art lesson with them if you want to. Or you can have them just draw just a really big square. If they really insist on drawing a cube, there is a trick to that. You make your little dot right here. And you draw your lines this way, and this way, and this way, and over here, and over here, and you connect back that way. Oops, don't draw all the way. You can tell it's been a while since I've done this. Don't need that line. Been a while since I've done that for the kiddos. So there you have your cube, which stands for your thousands. And then your flats are just your, and we needed 4 of those. Your rods, those are long, skinny rods. 2 of those, and then we need 5 of our units. And the kids always complain, I can't draw that like that, or I can't do that. And of course, I always try to make mine really messy so they can see it's not art class, it's math class. We're just representing our thinking, drawing about what we're thinking. And of course, this is your abstract, the symbolic version of this. And of course, you can always present this in different ways. You could build this and show the kids, and then they would draw what they see and write what that is. So you could start that way. Or you could start here and give them this piece, and they would build and then write. So you want to do it many different ways to make sure the kids have that concept down pat. And of course, this works on reading those numbers as well. So that's another important piece of working with numbers. Okay? So, now, one more thing I want to share with you, and I'm going to turn this over to Miss Stephanie to share her awesome book that she's developed for you, is I want to talk about how you can build different numbers and represent them in different ways. So this is something kiddos will enjoy as well. So I'm just going to flip this over for us so I can write on it this way. So for example, if we wanted to build the number 14, and you'd ask the kids, you give them their little caricatures over here, and ask them to build 14, and talk about the ways you could build 14.
Do you want these? Do you have all of them there?
I've got them right here, yeah.
Do you have the dog and everything?
No, I do not. You are
That's
right. I
right.
don't have
Use
those.
these.
You are
They're just
right,
coming out
Miss
there.
Stephanie. Because I've only got the ones on the base 10 here. So, if we want to build 14, then we're going to need, well, one way to build it would be to do a crab and
A puppy.
a puppy. Let's find him.
There's Puppy.
There he is. So that would be one way we could build 14. And then you ask kids, well, okay, is there another way we could build 14? And of course, this is a beautiful setting for a number talk. You let the kids just generate all their different answers, the ways they could build it. And of course, it's another good way to use our tray. They build it on here, and they can bring it and share it with the group if you want to do it that way. So Miss Stephanie's building 14 for us over here. So she's got the 8 for the spider and the 6 for the insect. So that would be one way. We could do, also someone may say you could do a crab and 2 people. That would be a way to build 14. Or Stephanie says we can do a snail and a snail and a snail and a snail. So that's good. That would be 4, and then 10 to make 14. So you can see how this could just go on and on and on with the kids. And I really think that they would enjoy it. Obviously, this is something we just come upon whenever we attended some trainings of our own. So it's not something I've experienced in the classroom, but I can imagine the kids would really, really enjoy doing this. It's a nice little twist on building numbers. It's a good way to get the kids talking and working as partners. So give this a try, and we will get all these resources to you. Let me share a couple more things.
I love those.
Yeah, these are really good too. So
I'm gonna just leave these here.
we'll dump you off.
Okay, that's fine.
A little number here. So this is also a resource that was free out there online, and we'll get to you. And it just has a little matching game that you can use. 2, how to build 2. And of course you pull out whatever you want the kids to work with. If you just want them to work with just this set right here, if that's it, that's all you want to work with, they can do it like a matching game. You can flip them over and then flip them back and forth and try to find the match, find the mate. You could do it many different ways. You could put the numbers this way across the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the kids could go through their cards and sort ways to make 4, ways to make 1, ways to make 2, ways to make 3, ways to make 5. Many different things that they could do with that. So it's a good, nice little resource out there for free that someone had put on Teacher Pay Teacher. Not that we push Teacher Pay Teacher, but there are some good things out there. You just have to use some common sense and make sure it's something the kids can actually use and still be able to see the concepts that's going on. It's not something just a lot of fluff.
This could be a good station after you taught this book for a while that they could go back and do.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And of course we could put these things in a station as well, these little things, and give some kids some numbers, or they could roll a dice and generate some numbers, and it could become a little station. Have yourself a little recording sheet, and then you've got a nice little station.
And if you don't have dice that's got the thousands on it, you could just use a cube and actually write those on there with a Sharpie markers.
Yes.
That's what we've done before.
Yes.
And so you can have kind of a control over how many thousands are going to build or how many hundreds with that.
Right, absolutely. And then of course the last thing I want to share with you is that yes, this does address standards. So I will be sharing this with you. It addresses some of our math standards. It addresses this, lots of the number and operations in base 10 is mainly where these come from. In kindergarten, we're just composing and decomposing numbers. It works in first grade, it works on 2-digit numbers. And then of course we move on into, of course first grade also is building numbers within 100, generating and adding and those types of things. And then it moves on into, you can take this and work with addition and subtraction with it as well. And then of course working on numbers into the thousands place. So this is also a document that I'll share and send with you and share with you. So it was something you can want to actually put in your lesson plans whenever you want to put this into action in your classroom. So I'm going to turn this over to Miss Stephanie, as she has taken this even a step further for us.
Okay, so for most kids, we need to adapt some things for them. So I love adaptive books because we can use them in many different ways in the classroom. And so I've actually taken this book, and since we own the book, I made some copies of it, and or you can print them off online, those kind of things, different ways. Or you can take a book and actually tear it apart if that's what you want to do. If you buy 2 copies, you don't have price bookstore. I've tore them apart before. So this is the actual book that we had, and what I did was I just went through, and if I'm working with this, I've got a 10 frame here where I can actually put, I don't have counters, but I would use counters there. We do have the little things. I would have them to look at this book and I would say, oh look, one is a snail, look, it has 1 foot. And so, can you build 1 for me? And so they would build 1 at this point. At this point I could also say, oh, okay, we've got 1 here, but can you show me the symbol? And so we could actually put 1 here, or they could match 1 snail. And so that's just a little Velcro there, match a snail. And then down here, let's count 1, and so they're going to slide it over 1 bead. And that's just a piece of yarn with a little bead on there, put it through with a hole punch. So that's one of the things that I've done for this book, for adaptive books. The other thing, like I said, this one's 2. 2 is a person, so they would go through, they would find a person, or they would find the number 2, and they would do that. And then of course down here, 1, 2, we're getting that correspondence from 1 to 1 as they're pulling those over and counting. I went on over where the numbers get a little bit harder. 20, of course, is 2 crabs. It's got the 20 here, and this is where I stopped with the beads because it gets a little harder for the kids when they're counting on up. But also that they can start seeing 10 and 10, and what is that? On back here, if you notice, I can lay these like this. I'll hide these other ones underneath here. And I can say, what's the difference between 7 and 8 when they're lined up? And they can see that there's 1 more in 8. So this helps with that too. And then, like I said, on over, when it got a little bit harder, I went, and each one of the dog's feet, I actually have a glue. You can't probably see it on here, but there's a glue dot on each foot. So if I'm having that child to try to count, and they're having trouble maybe seeing, now we have a kinesthetic piece to it. It's a multi-sensory. They're touching it, they're feeling that glue dot as they rub it across. I also put on here this because now I can skip count if I think about it. This is 4, this would be 8, this dog would be 12, this dog would be 16, so they would actually put those on there and start skip counting later. So different ways that I can use this book for different things. The entire time that I'm working with this book, I can change it out and it can be something else. Maybe we're just counting dogs at this point, so I want to make sure they can see 10 dogs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so that they're actually putting the numbers on here instead of that. But like I said, it can be used for skip counting, and then you can get into that multiplication part of this book. Another, I think you can probably see these a little bit better, but on each one of the crabs is a glue dot. We can count by 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So they can put those numbers there, or they can put 5 crabs and we can talk about it. So just different ways that I've used this book to, and you can see it here, glue dots on each one of the crab's feet, each one of the dog. And then we can do, again, dogs, we could count by that, and then they have to really skip count if you think about it. So they get through the dogs, the 10 dogs, which is 40, then what am I going up to? So I'm getting that addition into, so here it becomes now 40, 50. So they can see that. So that's the way I use this book for just doing some alterations. I love the fact that it has the Velcro because I can give it to a child and I can say, here, now work with this. I'm just wanting you to see this. If they're working with a paraprofessional at that point, they can, the paraprofessional can give them some cue cards that I've created. And I have different cue cards about creating these numbers, those kind of things within this. And then they can hand the cue cards to them and they can go through the book and do that. And you can put the cue cards on a ring, so it's just a quickly easy start back at the beginning if you needed to. But another thing was I love this book. I was thinking, oh, how can I use that for algebra? Because that's my thing. I love algebra. And so I was thinking, how do I use that for algebra? And I created this. Like I said, I love the Velcro because I can have them stick it on there and it's stuck. So if I had a child and they were writing expressions, we can use this book to learn how to write expressions. And let's say that the child needed to do, we talked about 2 crabs. So we have 2 crabs. And then we have, let's do 3 of my little, they're all turned around here on me. We'll get them all turned over. Here we go. 3 of our insects. And that one goes upside down, hang like that. He can fly upside down. That's great. So if I'm looking at this and I talk to my students and I'm getting them to start doing expressions, and I know that they need to have that parentheses in the expressions when they're writing them. And I say, okay, what do we have here? And I know I have to only have the total number of legs. How can I write that? So I have 2 crabs, which have how many legs? Of course, the children are going to say, oh, they have 10. Okay, because we've read this book several times and we've done different things with this book. Now, at this point, what about these wonderful little insects here? How many legs do they have? They have 6. But how many insects do I have? Oh, we have 3 insects, and each one of them have 6 legs. So, if I'm looking at this and I say, okay, now can I actually make sure this is the number of legs? Of course, they may be down here going 10 plus 10 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, which is true. That's fine, but I want them to start writing it as an expression, and they can start to build on this and see these together. So this is 20, and this is 18. So my answer is 38. And then they can go down here and they can say, is that correct? And they can add those up. Of course, that's 20 and that's 18, and they get 38. This is one of the ways that I can use this for expressions. Now, if I want to use it, I want to do substitutions for variables, which is really hard for our kids sometimes to understand why that we're doing that. But sometimes we have substitutions of variables, and if they have something concrete and they can see that, then they kind of understand it a little bit better, and then later on when they just see I as a 4, they understand that they're putting that back in there. So I have how many crabs? I have 2. So I have 2 times a crab, because we're doing the crab legs, plus 3 times an insect. Now, if over here I know that crabs are always equal to 10, and I know that insects is always equal to 6, I can go back and I can substitute. That allows me to have that opportunity for my students to understand what am I looking for, and then later on just looking for this amount. And saying, oh, I've got a C here, I'm going to substitute in 2 times 10 for here. I'm going to add 3 times 6. So I go back and I look at that, and I'm doing that again for them. So this is getting that ability to have that variable in there the entire time that I'm trying to talk to my students, because many times a variable is like, what is that? I mean, it's so unknown for our students, and I'm throwing letters into my math, and why am I doing that? So I want them to have something a little bit more concrete when I'm working with those kind of things, and this allows that to happen. So this book can be used for many different things. That's why I like it. It's a very simple read. So if I have a student who's struggling with the reading part of it, the reading's not getting in the way of the math I'm teaching. So, any other questions? Girls? All right. I want to finish this off with, this is my 100 board. And if I'm having the students to create a number and it's within 100, things that I can do for that is I can actually have them to lay the animals on the 100 board, so we know that 1, and they can count and they can cover it up, and they just keep on covering it up with the snails if they wanted to, and they see 100. There's 100 snails, and this is how many it can take. And we can print those off, or we can start doing that skip counting. The first dog is 4, right? The second dog would be 8. So we can start seeing that when we're doing that skip counting. We're leading that right into multiplication. And this is great because then my next little dog is going to be where? He's going to be at 12. And you can have these, we can make these smaller or bigger, it doesn't matter, they're easy to change. And for the people who are going to be watching this for the credit that we're doing, you're going to get this on a Word document, so you can actually it can be bigger or smaller, you can create it really easily. And the cool thing is, so if I'm doing this multiplication and I was showing this on a hundreds chart, which I like. So let's say I'm doing 2 crabs and this, and my student's really struggling with that. My first crab's at 10, my second crab's at 20, my third thing is my insect. Now I know that's 6 more, so at this point where am I going? 26. Next one, if they need to, they got that support of being able to count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then my next crab, 6 more, I'm at 38. it's not a crab, it's a insect. But I'm at 38. So this is another way of giving them that support. They're building, they've got this as a support. It's not a calculator that they're using, but they're seeing that addition flow through easily. There we go.
Okay, and of course it also could be used with subtraction, right? We can do the opposite with it.
We can do the opposite if we need to with subtraction.
So the main thing is just giving the kids something to work with that they can count, they can visualize, that they can relate a number to a quantity. That's the main thing for our kiddos, is that they can understand that a number is not just symbols, that it's quantities.
So we're at KVEC and we appreciate you guys viewing this video that we're doing, and we hope this is great for your classroom. We hope you're able to use these materials for whatever student you may have, because every student's different and we know that, and we need to prioritize the fact that they are learning during their day. So at KVEC we would appreciate it if you could just let us know that you like our video, those kind of things, and we'll make sure that the materials are at the bottom linked in. And
our
holler at
contact,
you.
our contact information.
Yes, and our contact information at the end. We'll make sure that that's there. It'll be, our information will be our numbers. We'll also have emails there. So if you need to get in touch with us, you can do that. But we'll holler at you later.
Bye.